and welcome to HRBC show called Let's Talk. So, as you know, Virginia did some redistrict, you know, lines drawn. And today we have the pleasure of having Rod Thompson. He's running for 84th District Delegate. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Would you like to tell us a little about yourself?
Definitely, yeah. So I live in Suffolk. I've been out here for about 15 years. I've been in Hampton Roads since 2003. I have 3 boys. They've all gone to Suffolk Public Schools. I served in the Navy for 22 and almost 23 years. I retired as a Chief Petty Officer just this past July and immediately jumped into the fray of politics this past September. I knew right away I wanted to run for office, and it's why I'm here.
All right. Well, have a few questions for you. Are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What made you want to be a state delegate?
Okay, so initially, what made me run for office was I had my son sort of planted the seed years ago because I was really mad at the public school system, and he was like, "Dad, you should run for school board." And I'm like, "Well, I'm not a political type at all." And so over the years, watching everything that sort of transpired over just like the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, leading up to like January 6th, that whole time frame, I continuously was getting more and more fed up with the way that government officials weren't paying attention to voters. They weren't paying attention to the same people that put them in office. And I know you're a retired chief. I'm a retired chief. Everything we do comes from service. And so for me to think that these people are here and they're supposed to be serving the people and they're not, I really started getting angry. And the more I watched our country de-evolve and completely divide over the most petty circumstances, I was sitting in the Chiefs mess on my last ship, and I said out loud, I said, this is not the country I signed up to die for. And after, 21 years of service at that point, that was a really profound statement for me to make. And so, like whenever first classes are making chief in the Navy, we always say this thing to them of, we ask them, how many sailors, work for you? And they always come up with the same, however many sailors are in their office, right? So like I had 30 sailors on my last ship, but I can tell you that none of those sailors worked for me. I worked for all of them, and that was my job until the day I retired. And I'm still in touch with some of my sailors today. It's serving those sailors. And so I initially was thinking about moving into the the congressional realm. And I had a friend that told me they were friends with Jen Kiggins, and they referred me to her. And Jen told me something that was really just kind of profound. She said, you can affect more people at the state level. Because at the congressional level, it's people from all 50 states, and you got guys in Utah and Texas making decisions for people in Virginia. Whereas if you're running at the state level, you can affect your neighbors, you affect your friends, you affect the people you've grown to call family over the years. And so for me, I translated that service that I was taught in the Navy, that leadership service to treat other people with dignity and respect, and take care of their best interests for them because you actually care about them. And I just translated that over. I said, I'm going to run for state office. I got my neighbors, I got my friends, and I got all these people I've been meeting since I've been on the campaign trail. And I'm here to serve them. And that's my number one reason for running.
Awesome. Okay. So as a fellow veteran, would you support not taxing veteran retirement pay?
Okay, so it's hard to answer this without sounding self-serving because I'm a retired veteran. But no, 100%. I tell you, there are. I remember when I was, I used a prior Florida address to avoid taxes for a while I was active duty because my legal state of residence was Florida. But I think when you're talking about retired veterans, especially, I know a lot of guys that were stationed here. They bought houses down in Moyock solely because they didn't want to pay Virginia taxes. And whenever people retire, they want to get out of here as fast as possible. And so I think when you're looking at the overall scope of things, is the amount of money that you're making from veteran retirement really going to be that much more offset if you take it away? Because what you'll see is more veterans staying locally. I got some data points here. What is it? So 2020 data showed that Hampton Roads houses, we house around 205,000 veterans, which account for 16% of the local population. But you have to ask yourself, how many more veterans leave every year once they retire just to escape the taxation in the state of Virginia? So I think offering them tax breaks, not taxing their retirement, you'll find more veterans that want to stay locally. Because like myself, I've been here, like I said, I've been in the same house for 15 years, Hampton Roads since 2003. This is my home. I've lived here longer than I've lived anywhere else in my life. And so for me, if I was going to stay either way, but I think if I had the option of not being taxed here, it would have made that decision a lot easier. And you do have people that are on the fence of whether or not they want to stay in Virginia because their retirement's being taxed. But like I said, you keep those people. There's a retention effort there. When you get rid of the taxes, those veterans stay, and when they stay, they go to work locally. Like I'm a defense contractor. They start small businesses, so they still give back to the tax system. They still give back to the state, but they just do it in other ways other than taxing their hard-earned and well-deserved military retirement.
Okay, I like that. Okay, what are your thoughts on the current healthcare system for our older citizens?
Okay, so again, going back to previous studies, Hampton Roads, or not Hampton Roads, but Virginia as a state or as a Commonwealth, we rank 22 out of 50 states for elder care. And I'm sorry, and again, this is me subjectively speaking. I was raised in the South. You respect your elders. That's what you do. And the fact that we have elderly citizens out there that don't have healthcare or can't afford proper healthcare, it concerns me because you're supposed to take care of your people. I had Mahatma Gandhi. He said that the measure of any society is, the measure of any society is how they treat their elderly. And, as of right now, if you look at the way we care for the elderly, you got Medicare, Medicaid, and all those things, but are we really doing enough to keep people not just sustaining life, but having them live a healthy and good life? Because I know, my father recently passed away in April of last year. My stepmother passed away in 2015. And neither one of them were what I would say. They were poor. They were destitute people, and just getting their meds was such an issue. And I think that kills me because my father was 76 years old, and a 76-year-old who's in bad health shouldn't have to worry about having to pay for those meds that are going to keep them alive a little bit longer. And like I said, I think it goes more to the fact of just having the medical treatment available to not just sustain life, but make it a little bit better. I'm not a socialist by any means. I'm so pro-capitalism, it's crazy. But I can remember, when Barack Obama was running back in 2008, that was the one thing that kind of appealed to me in all of his campaign speeches was the fact that, I came from a very poor background. And I didn't mind, even then, I wasn't making that much. I was an E5. I didn't mind paying a little bit more out of my taxes if it meant that the people where I came from could be taken care of. And that's not just the elderly, that's just everybody. But like I said, I think socialized healthcare in itself it's a very long-winded conversation to have. But when it comes to the elderly, I can't even believe this is even a question. Are we going to take care of our elderly? Come on, man. That's your mom. That's your grandmother. That's, we're the generation that's inheriting this earth from them. They're the generation that kept us going through the 70s, 80s, and 90s and kept the economy really booming. And now that they're old, we're going to be like, oh yeah, sorry guys, we got nothing for you.
Yeah. All right. So Suffolk, as well as the rest of the 7 cities, is seeing an uptick in gun violence. What are your thoughts on making the city safer?
So I'm going to go a little pro 2A here for a second. So you're Navy, I'm Navy. And I think we were taught the difference between a hard target and a soft target. And a hard target is an armed target that is, people see that and they're like, oh, I'm not going to attack that guy because he can definitely fight back. I think the more you weaken a society, the more susceptible they become to criminal activity. It's what it is. So I think first and foremost, I'm not going to say we should arm everyone and turn everything into the Old West, but I will say that it's definitely prudent for people to own weapons. It's prudent for people to carry weapons because if someone's going to choose between you or the guy that's carrying a gun, I think they're going to choose the person that's unarmed, and that's kind of the way it goes. Now, overall, one of my platforms this year is recidivism in the prison system as itself. Like I know you and myself, you and I, we had to go through TAP class when we got out of the Navy. And for those that don't know, transition assistance program is basically it's a year-long process or more where you go to different classes that teach you how to be a civilian because you've been institutionalized by the military. And so I've continuously asked, why are we not doing this for our nonviolent offenders that are getting released back into society? Why are we not equipping people to come out better than when they went in? I have a friend that I go to church with. He's involved in one of these educational sort of programs in the Department of Corrections. They have their shortfalls right now with manning, and they don't have enough guards to completely cover the myriad of school or educational classes that need to be offered. But at the same time, if you were to make a mandatory program, because right now they are completely optional, if you were to make it a mandatory program for prisoners that are getting ready to get out, that year leading up to their release date, go through classes on, like we did, resume writing, get your Microsoft certifications, things like that, things that are going to equip people to not come out and just be criminals again. Because I'm an optimist. Like I said, I came from a really rough background. I did some really stupid things in my day. Full transparency, I got kicked out of high school twice, and I was facing jail time when I joined the Navy. And the Navy, God and my wife completely changed my life. And the thing I think is, when you tell me, like, you may see a drug dealer getting arrested. I see a future entrepreneur that's already wired for business. Grant Cardone, he's an amazing entrepreneurial speaker. He says the same thing because he was a drug addict for a long time, and he would sell anything he could to get that next fix. And that's what he says is like, I realized my brain was already wired for this. I just had to retune it. And so I think if we could have a program like that in the prison system, you would see less people coming out and being repeat offenders. You would see people going back to their at-risk communities possibly, and being that little beacon of hope of like, hey, you know what? There's something else out there, and you can easily achieve this. Maybe not easily, but you can achieve this if you just put in the time and the effort. And so again, I'm an optimist, but I'm also a realist. And I think if we had a program like that, which is one of the things I'm really, really working on, just kind of like building up and getting the framework for. So if I'm elected, I can start running with it. I think there's potential there to stem violent crime in very positive ways.
Okay. So people in the more rural areas of your district feel forgotten. What is your plan to get them informed and involved with your representation of them?
So since day one, I have not made a single campaign promise, right? I mean, I have the platforms that I want to work on, but my number one thing, whether I'm talking at like, one of the bigger political events, or if I'm doing a one-on-one, or if I'm in a living room somewhere talking just like, small groups, I listen. I really want to listen. And so when you have people that say they're not being heard, I'm going to tell them I got 2 ears, and I am all for it. Just invite me over. Let's sit down. Let's talk, because I want to know. I don't want to get up there and say, oh, I'm going to get to Richmond and do this, and I'm going to go to Richmond and do that. And, because that's what you hear continuously. And then people get to Richmond and they don't do this and they don't do that. They get up there and they realize that they have to work in a room, just like we did in a cheese mess. They get up there and they have to work in a room with other people that may not see things the way they do. You may work in a room with people that don't care about the underrepresented people of the 84th district. So my thing is, I need to know what the people of the 84th district want. I need to know what they need. And if they're feeling left out, I need to know how I can step up to maintain a presence for them. I know I was talking to Dawn Marie Brittingham when she was running for school board in Suffolk, and she said she was knocking on doors, and she lives in the Holy Neck borough. She was saying she was knocking on doors, and elderly people were saying for the first time in their life, someone had knocked on their door to introduce themselves. And that's crazy to me that, you're not out there like I'm out there actively trying to meet as many people as I possibly can. I was joking with someone that, like you see these other candidates and they're posting their fundraising, like how much money they've made. And money's important, and fundraising is important to pay the bills. Don't get me wrong, because I definitely got some bills coming. But my thing is like, for me, I've spent all of this time since September getting to know people, reaching out and going to different events and making connections and building the platforms that I know are going to work for the people of my district, because they've told me that's what they want me to work on. And so I've definitely prioritized the people side of the house more than I have any other side of this political process, because again, I don't consider myself a politician. I'm a regular dude that's just here to serve. And if you want to serve, you got to know what your people need.
Okay. So we seem to keep seeing a few bad behaving officers, making it hard for good ones. What are your thoughts on how to have less of these incidents? And are you in favor of conditional ending of qualified immunity and mandatory psych evals before they're even allowed to join?
So I think I'm going to go. So first, I'm going to quote my pastor, because he continuously says we are broken people living in a broken world. And that leads to a lot of what we're seeing. But I also, again, I'm going to pull from what I know, what is the Navy. I remember going through, I was the anti-terrorism training team guy on my last ship. And we do this stress training, right? Where people go into the black and the red and the yellow, and it's different stress levels. But once you get to the area that they call going into the black, that's when you don't realize what's happening. You kind of like shut down and your brain isn't processing the moment. And that's what you're seeing with a lot of these police officers that overreact. A lot of these shootings that are completely uncalled for. you'll see in the body cam footage that, something small will happen, and the cop is already on edge, and then they snap and then they shoot, right? And that's basically them not able to handle a stressful situation. Now, conversely, you also have God complex cops that are walking around like they own the earth. I support the blue. Big fan of police. I'm not going to lie. For the most part, most of the cops I've ever met in my life were good cops. Even the ones that arrested me in high school, they were just doing their job, right? But there are bad actors. There's bad actors in every field. There's bad actors in every business or every single enterprise out there. But the problem is when you're dealing with people that are in charge of our safety, the people that are supposed to be there to protect us, that's when you definitely have issues. And I'm sorry, there are certain cases where no, there should not be immunity for someone that unlawfully shoots someone in the back when they're trying to run away. There shouldn't be immunity for people that are out there, doing crime while wearing a badge. Because what that does is it sends the wrong message to the entire population that cops are not to be trusted, that we shouldn't back the blue at all. And then it really puts a bad image on the good cops that really are out there, kind of like me. They just want to serve their communities. They want to make it a safer place. But I'd say the psych level, the psych you mentioned psych evaluations. I think that, definitely put people through scenarios where they're going to have to break mentally and see how they handle those situations. And I'm not sure what goes on at police academy at the police academy. Love to attend. If there's any police watching, please definitely invite me. I'll come and check out the training. But no, there's this huge disconnect between good cops and bad cops. And that divide is so big that, you don't really hear about what the good cops are doing, but there are bad cops all the time, always on the news. And it's troublesome. It really is, because like I said, you trust these people to save your life. You trust these people to do the right thing by you. But at the same time, you've got some bad actors out there, and you honestly have people that just should not be police officers. It's just like, again, the Navy. Everyone can join the Navy. That doesn't mean everyone should join the Navy. I've seen situations where, the poo hit the fan, and you look over and the guy that's supposed to be running the show is in the corner and he's terrified. That happens. Same thing happens with these cops. Just because you can be law enforcement doesn't mean you should be law enforcement. And that's a gut check moment that not a lot of people have with themselves until it's too late and they've done something they can't take back.
Okay. All right. What are your thoughts on the controversy about Black history being taught in our school system?
Okay, so this one is somewhat of a no-brainer for me because Black history is American history. Period. Okay. American industry as we know it, America as we know it, is only where it's at. Because I'm one of those guys where you look at the timeline and I'm like, hey, this only happens because this happens. Okay, America is only where it's at in history, both successfully, with business, industry, everything, because of the slave labor and upon which it was built. Now, granted, there are plenty of entrepreneurs that were streaming ahead and doing great things, and that were not involved in the slave trade whatsoever. But we have to look at the very cold, hard fact that there were some egregious, misdoings in our history that we can't get over yet. That we're not there yet. I mean, you think about it, Jim Crow laws were less than 100 years ago, and so what we see is this is my issue with like CRT, right? So critical race theory. I'm all for uplifting Black history because I think it's really, I also think it's kind of a shame that, we get to hear about the heroes of, Black American heroes for 28 days out of the year, right? That's when we really focus on it. And then, but we're learning about, world history from the 1600s and the 1500s and that's it, right? But when you look at CRT, particularly, I think the main issue you'll find with people that they have with CRT is that it's almost a flipping of history to vilify white America. And again, it's one of those issues for me where I'm a bridge person. Like I'm going to be that dude that steps in between two guys to try to bring peace, right? And so when I'm listening to the different complaints on both sides, I can kind of see the valid viewpoints from both arguments. But at the end of the day, you have people basically trying to rewrite history through the lens through a modern lens, right? So like if I take Christopher Columbus, for instance, right? Came from Spain and did some very horrible things. He even wrote about how easy it was going to be to conquer and enslave the people of the islands. And to us, that is horrible. That's egregious. This guy had preteen slaves and sex slaves and whatever. And we know that's a horrible way. That's the very definition of a horrible person. But 500 years ago, the man was a conqueror. And so that's where we have to allow ourselves. Education and history is not just, hey, this is something that happened a long time ago, and we're going to judge it by our modern standards. No, you have to put yourself in the perspective of what happened back then. And you have to understand that, yeah, you know what, there were good guys and there were bad guys, but how were they viewed at that time? And like, to you and I, a human being owning another human being, even as it's happening today with, the sex trade and everything, it's absolutely abhorrent that would ever happen. Like, I couldn't imagine anyone ever thinking that was okay. But 200 years ago, people were like, yeah, okay, I own some people. It makes no sense to me. I think the egregious side of this is that, people want to tell one really horrible side of the story or want to deny one horrible side of the story. And I think at some point in time, you have to come together and you have to realize that Black history goes deeper than horrible white people doing things to Black people. And I think it comes down to, like a friend of mine, Queen, I love her to death. We served together in 2003. She's like a sister to me. And I've talked to her multiple times. And I felt super ignorant when I sat down to talk to her. And I'd never heard of the Tulsa Massacre. I'd never heard of what happened in Wilmington. With the only coup that ever happened in the United States happened in Wilmington, North Carolina. And these are the things I think that, again, it's not vilifying white people to say these things happened, but it puts into perspective for someone that may not know better. Like, hey, this is why, you will never relate to what it's like to be Black in America. It's not vilifying someone. It's just letting them know, like, hey, this is the way it is. And this is the way it has been. And this is why it is the way it is. How do we go forward from here? That's where you apply the modern lens. It's not looking backwards and saying, oh, well, he's a horrible person because he didn't fit today's standards. No, it's, yeah, he did some things back there, but how do we fix that now and move forward from that? So I think when it comes to Black history, it should be viewed as American history. And we should say, how do we learn from everything that happened in the past to make our future so much better for everybody, equally across the board? And I think a lot of that's going to come with just a lot of reflection, a lot of forgiveness. There's going to have to be a lot of forgiveness. And I also think that some people are going to really have to soften their hearts and say, you know what? Okay, yeah, this happened, and I shouldn't be such an a-hole about it when people bring it up to me. Again, that's just me talking.
Okay. All right. All right. So if an abortion bill came across the floor, what would it have to look like for you to pass it?
So I can tell you that I am, as a male, as someone who physically has testicles, I really don't like talking about abortion. I can tell you, my wife, as a Christian, I can tell you I am pro-life. I've seen some things. I did some time in Iraq. I've seen things that gave me a definite alternate perspective on the value of life. And I definitely. I can't even kill a spider. It's the craziest thing ever. I think that life is so precious and so pure. And I can tell you, like in talking to my wife about abortion, my wife has told me that even if she were raped, she would want to keep that child because to her, for whatever reason, that's a part of her, and God wanted her to have this child for whatever reason, and that's her belief system, right? But not everyone's me, and not everyone's my wife. I think I support Governor Youngkin in the fact that if you look at the way the laws are coded now. What is it? It's not after 15 weeks, special instances of rape and incest, health of the mother, health of the child. I think those are fair. I think those are very fair middle ground options. Anyone who's gone to my Facebook page or gone to my website will see that I'm a very big fan of compromise. I think that, the issue we have in the country today is that, left hand doesn't want to talk to right hand. And getting things done across the aisle has to be he likes it and I don't, or I like it and he doesn't. And that's really the only way it goes. And granted, there's some bipartisan issues that get settled, but when you look at these big 6% issues, they call them the 6% issues because, the news will focus on 6% of what legislators do, which are these big ticket items, right? And abortion is one of them. But when you look at them, there's hardly ever any compromise. And it's not only is there not a compromise, it's the fact that they weaponize it. To make one side look bad, give or take, whatever. No, and I can tell you that no matter what answer I gave to this question, someone's going to see it as a wrong answer. And that's human nature. That's why utopia could never exist, right? Because you throw in human nature, Eve eats the apple, Adam falls for it, right? That's what we do. And I just, to me, I think the way the Virginia laws are currently coded are fair across the board. I do not think that abortion should be used as a birth control option. But at the same time, I'm not going to tell an 11-year-old girl that was raped by her uncle that she now has to be doubly traumatized and carry that child to term. That's just me. Again, I can't do that. I represent the people of the 84th district. And I think that most of the people I've talked to on the phone so far or in person, when we get on the topic of abortion, you'll find that more people, even when they are pro-life, are soft on the circumstances that are currently covered by Virginia law. So as of right now, I would support the laws as written. Governor Youngkin's he's very stern in accepting those laws as well. And I kind of side with him on that.
Okay. All right. So what are your thoughts on ending the monopoly that Dominion Energy has in this state?
Okay, so exciting times I think we're living in now, because you're seeing a transition of traditional energy into newer energy forms. And that's not to say I fully endorse 87 windmills off the coast. I've talked to some people from Dominion and excuse me, Lord. I've talked to some people from Dominion and they're excited about what's coming with the cleaner energy that they have to offer. But I know Governor Youngkin specifically was talking about modular nuclear facilities, smaller nuclear facilities that would basically put out a lot of energy to different localities. And I have a buddy of mine. He works out at Surrey at the nuclear power plant. I'm getting ready to go out there and take a tour of that place. I can't wait. But he wants to talk to me more about these modular nuclear facilities. A lot of people don't realize that nuclear power is clean. It is safe. There have been some mishaps in the past, but there haven't been any new nuclear power plants built in the United States since the 3 Mile Island incident. And so when you're looking at the future, if we're bringing in these modular nuclear facilities, no one is saying that Dominion has to be the company that governs these or builds them. I think Dominion has had a grip on the Commonwealth because they are the only competitor out. They're not even a competitor. I mean, they're the only ones really out there providing the service. So when you open the doors to different clean energy, I think you're going to open the door to different competitors that can come in and give consumers a better option. And again, this isn't to trash Dominion because my power's on right now. But it is to say that competition definitely breeds better prices.
Yes.
And it definitely, I think a lot of us sometimes, my house is old, like super old, and I was paying heating bills that were just crazy back when I was a junior sailor. So no, I think we need to get some competition here. It keeps you sharp and it keeps prices down.
Okay. So what are 3 of the top problems in your district, and what solutions do you think will help?
Okay, so the one thing I continuously hear is education. A lot of people worry not so much with education as it stands, but the new stuff that's being introduced. Like I mentioned, CRT it's kind of an issue for a lot of people. I think if it was taken back and sort of retooled a little bit, there's a better way to distribute that's a lot more appeasing to everybody. A lot of people, you see, I can tell you this, I've taken a stand on my Facebook page continuously. I've spoken out about it. The pornography in school libraries it's a problem. There are books out there, and again, I have the illustrations. I think I've shared them once. The illustrations, it's nothing short of pornography, and the graphic nature that it's distributed. It's not like here's Jane and these are Jane's private parts. It's here's Jane and this is how Jane can pleasure her friend Jennifer, and it's showing you a graphical representation of that. And to me, that's pornography. And if you're 18 years or up, or 21 years or older, that's fine. But when you're delivering this to 6th grade classrooms, or you have it in a middle school library where a 6th grader, 11-year-olds can get their hands on this, that's a huge issue for me. So when it comes to fighting for kids, like I said, I'm a father of 3, not going to stop. I think there are age-appropriate things that kids should be exposed to. And I'm not trying to ban books. I don't think the Republican Party is trying to ban books. We're trying to basically distribute age-appropriate material where it needs to be distributed and keep it away from where it doesn't need to be. So education, and I will tell you this was kind of a got me moment. I was talking to a former educator, and she asked me, what do you see wrong with the education system? So I pitched her my idea of an ideal education system that focused, it's kind of like the Japanese do, where it focuses more on your strengths. Once you get to a certain age, it's like, not everybody needs to go to calculus because not everyone's good at math. And she asked me this. It was a great question. I think everyone should think on this. She said, okay, so do you think going back in history, the education system as we've known it is good, is adequate? And I really don't. I think we're teaching antiquated topics that were tuned back in the day. If you look back at the history of education, public education was created to build better employees. That's why there's not we're not trained to be entrepreneurs. That's why we're trained from an early age that when the bell rings, you go to class. When the bell rings, you go to lunch, and when the bell rings, you get to go home, just like you do in the factories, right? We're taught that you sit in rows and you sit in columns, and it's orderly and it's quiet. You can't talk unless you're spoken to, or you raise your hand for permission. And granted, some of these are just good disciplinary practices, but at the same time, it's a programming method. The best performing kid gets to stand in the front of the line anytime you go somewhere. You go to bathroom breaks on a set schedule. It's training you for the eventual workforce. And I think one of the things we really need to focus on in our society is building entrepreneurs, building innovators. And we have plenty of them, don't get me wrong. But how many kids out there, like I said, I was joking earlier because, I'm in my son's bedroom right now and there's art all over the walls. He's an artist. And I think with education, we should focus on the kids' strengths more so than just, hey, here's a standardized curriculum that you have to follow. And everyone has to follow the exact same curriculum because not everyone is the same and not everyone has the same strengths. The second thing, sorry, tangent. The second thing in my district is agricultural tradition. I think from the oystermen up near where I live on the Nansemond and the Chuckatuck Creek to the peanut farmers and the other farmers that are out there in the Southampton area, up in Isle of Wight, agriculture is in danger. You may not realize this, but I'm not anti-progress or anti-growth, but we're having farmlands that are getting rezoned into industrial, into tract housing. And I'm all for the growth. I think it should be checked and metered and planned and go according to plan. But right now our farmlands are in danger. And if farmers aren't continuously working those lands, then that becomes, basically prey for anybody that wants to move in. And again, not anti-development, but I want to protect what we have. Our area is known for its peanuts. It's known for its oysters. And when we start losing that, we start giving away our identity in exchange for tax dollars. And I'm not okay with that. So I really want to talk to farmers. I want to sit down. I want to see the burdens that they're having. I do have some really great ideas that I've been reading about with regards to smart farming and blockchain technology and the Internet of Things and all this really cool stuff that can help carry the 84th district into the future with just new farming methods. It's actually pretty revolutionary. And lastly, like I said, I think crime is an issue. Recidivism, again, is one of my platforms. If we can find a way to take people from the prison system and put them back out smarter, better, and just really out there to contribute to society, I think you'll see a drop in crime. But I'm an idealist, so.
Okay. So my last question. If
Okay.
I am a diehard Democrat, why should I vote for you?
If you are a diehard Democrat, why wouldn't you vote for me? Seriously. So I've written about this, and it pains me. Because you'll see people that go to vote and they only vote because of the R or the D next to the candidate's name. I'm actually, I guess I could put it out there now. I want to get in front of Democratic. I want to get in front of Democratic parties. I want to get in front of Democratic events. I want to talk to Democrats. I made a very bold statement because I read somewhere that because the way they rezoned the 84th district included a lot of people that didn't vote for Glenn Youngkin and didn't vote for Jen Kiggins and did not vote for President Trump in 2020. And I'm okay with that. But they automatically predicted that I was going to lose this race because of those historical numbers. And so I came back and I said, instead of worrying about the predicted outcome of the race, you should definitely worry more about how many of your voters I'm going to take. Because I think overall, people are getting pretty pissed off with the way the political system is run. I know I was. That's why I'm running. Yes, I'm a conservative, but I've put myself out there as a moderate since day one. I'm a moderate because I believe in the compromise. I believe that I'm sick of seeing this cold civil war that we have in our country of red versus blue. And then they start talking to the media and it becomes black versus white. And then it's illegal versus legal. Okay, we need to figure out who we are as a country and get ourselves back online. And if I can do that from the Commonwealth, we can start with the Commonwealth and grow from there, get the word out, get the message out. I need more people like me stepping up and getting these old rusty politicians out of office that have continuously just built this divide in between the people. So yeah, you know what? If you're a Democrat, let's sit down and talk. Let's have a conversation, because I'm going to listen to you just as much as I'm going to listen to my Republican brothers and sisters, because I want to know what makes you tick. I want to know what you're looking for in a representative. I'm not going to say I'm going to change my stance on some things, but at the end of the day, I think the biggest thing I can say here is that when I'm elected, I don't just represent the Republicans in my district. I don't just represent the people that voted for me. When I'm elected, I represent the entire 84th district. Okay, I don't care what you look like. I don't care what political party you're a member of. When I'm elected, I represent you, and you'll have my ear until the day I'm no longer in office. So if you're a Democrat, please reach out to me. Let's have a conversation. Let's have some coffee, and let me know what's on your mind.
Awesome. Okay. Well, those are all the questions I have, and we don't have any Facebook questions. So it was great talking to you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on. This is awesome.
And is there anything else you want to tell the people?
Yeah. So if you would like to, if you want to check out more about me, you can find me on Facebook. It's Rod Thompson for VA. It's rodthompson4va.com is my website. You can go there. Like I said, I'm definitely fundraising. So if you want to go and contribute to the cause, that's cool. If you'd like to host an event in your home or a business, please, I'm always open to that. My schedule is wide open for right. Well, it's not wide open, but it's pretty open. And again, if you just want to have a one-on-one coffee with me, definitely shoot me an email, shoot me a Facebook message. Let's make this happen. And I would love to talk to more people.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching. Bye.